Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another video. Today we are going to recap week 5 of the NFL season. It was quite a bit of upsets this time, so I did not do that well with picks, but let's get into each game. First up, we had the 49ers winning against the Los Angeles Rams 26-23. The 49ers, they have been injured throughout the season, yet they ended up doing well still. Mac Jones having 342 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, the one game did not really do too much with Christian McCaffrey, but Mac Jones doing a lot of the work, even while getting injured in the middle of the game. I think in the fourth quarter sometime there, but he still did pretty well. On the Rams side of things, the defense allowed the 49ers, but Stafford did not do that bad either, 389 yards. The rushing game did a lot of work. Kyren Williams only did have 14 in carries, so that is a little bit questionable for how good he is. But at the same time, the Rams was going from behind for a lot of this game, so it kind of did make sense. Overall, when the 49ers are not injured, I absolutely have the expectations for them to be in good. George Kittle is still out. My receivers has been injured. As you can tell from over here, Kendrick Bourne and Jake Tonges had the most targets, and they're backups right now. So it's a little bit off of like the Rams defense, but also it just shows how the 49ers can be good even through the injuries right now. And that's more so my takeaways from this game. Next up, we had the Minnesota Vikings winning 21-17 against the Cleveland Browns. Carson Wentz ended up having a okay day with 236 yards off 34 attempts with 1 touchdown. Cam Akers had a pass in there, for 32 yards as well, on probably what was a trick play. I didn't watch this game. This was before I woke up, so the only part I really did see was like the ending, potentially, since that's more towards the time I did wake up, but it looks like Carson Wentz did not have too great of a day, but he did do all right. The rushing game did in its part. On the Browns side of things, Dillon Gabriel did not have a good first start. I expect him to be better moving forward. I think against this defense may have been a little bit too tricky for Dillon Gabriel. At the same time, I did expect the Browns defense to do a little bit more to where I did pick the Browns, but whatever. The rushing game of the Browns did at least sort of good in this game, with Quinshon Judkins having 110 yards. At the end of the day, I do think this is at least about where I expected these two teams to be at right now. Cleveland having the defense to run game. Once the passing game is up, maybe we'll see more wins, but I'll give Dillon Gabriel some slack this time. He did just have his first start for the Vikings. Wentz is better than JJ McCarthy still. The run game isn't like too great, but they can do its part. And there's not much else to say. Next up, we had an absolute beating with the Colts winning 40-6 against the Las Vegas Raiders. I think it's time that Geno Smith probably hangs it up. He has not played that good so far this season, having 2 games to 3 interceptions, and in this game, 2 interceptions so far this season. In the one game, while doing better now, cannot save the Raiders if Geno does this poorly. The Colts, they continue to do great. Although this game was a little bit off on the touchdown amount compared to what they actually did on offense, considering they did not even get to 400 yards with the 6 touchdowns, because 2 of them actually is in fairly favorable positions where they were like less than 10 yards away already. But still, Daniel Jones got to 212 yards with 29 attempts and 2 touchdowns. That's generally a pretty good stat line for him. I do wonder how they would do when it's not the greatest defense for these upcoming weeks. They did just lose to the Rams the week prior, so maybe they won't have like this type of performance again for a little bit. But overall, I do think that this game was an absolutely good game for the Colts. Next up, we had the New Orleans Saints winning 26-14 against the New York Giants. I think it's time that the narrative is there for Jackson Dart not being that good either. He didn't play that well the week prior either. And this week just showed why I picked against the Giants this week. He's just not that good. And Cam Scatterboo in the rushing game tried to do with Leopold, but it just wasn't there at all. Jackson Dart threw too many interceptions. The Saints actually looked good against the Giants' defense, as Spencer Rattler actually got to 225 yards this game. They only had 1 touchdown, which I guess you could say is a little bit not like on the great side against the Giants' defense, but the Giants' defense is just not good. So them allowing 26 to the Saints of all teams, it's not really that great of a showing. But it even could have been more since Blake Booby had 4 or 6 field goals. Right. Just so you guys can see it better, because that's probably being blocked by a face cam. But yeah, it's just not a good time for the Giants right now. And I don't think the Giants will win that many games. And I don't think either of these 2 teams is going to win that many more games. But the Saints now has a tiebreaker for essentially doing better in case something happens with the first overall pick. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys winning 37-22 against the New York Jets. The Cowboys, they absolutely dominated in this game to start. Dak had 237 in yards with 4 touchdowns, and the rushing game did its part by so much. Javonte Williams having 16 carries for 135 yards. That's absurd, actually. But the Jets, they didn't play too badly. And now a lot of it did come in garbage time like they usually have been. Justin Fields getting 283 yards and 32 completions. The rushing game doing pretty good in 113 yards, so 14 carries. I do think a lot of them did come into garbage time numbers, so it's basically just stat padding, but at the same time, they didn't play too badly. I guess they did kind of play bad until that 4th quarter, but still. Overall, this game just was all Cowboys, and I expected this, actually, until I expected it to be maybe a little bit closer, but overall, I did expect Cowboys to go into the lead early, and Jets probably come a little bit behind and come back in the garbage time, but yeah, this is probably about what I expected. Next up, we had the Philadelphia Eagles actually losing to the Denver Broncos 21-17. The Eagles, they actually was winning it and winning 17-13 going into the fourth quarter. And then, just like in weeks past, they did not play a full quarters and let the Broncos come back and actually win it. Bo Nix did not play all too well. A lot of his passing yards probably did come in the fourth quarter. Only having 242 yards and a touchdown. And the Broncos rushing game, they did do their part. It's a little bit lower than what they usually have. The Eagles, Saquon actually having a good game this time, having 30 yards on only 6 carries. But what is happening with the Eagles? The one time they lost, they only had Saquon carry 6 times. Okay. Jalen Hurts did throw 38 yard times for 280 yards. It's more so the thought that like the Eagles just cannot play full quarters, and of course they actually lose when I picked them to actually win this time. But yeah, Broncos win. Next up, we have a game where the Dolphins just absolutely blew it. The Dolphins having 7.1 average for Tua, 256 yards. Their one game absolutely did not do well, though. Devon Achane only had 16 yards and 10 carries. The most the Dolphins even had on a singular rushing play was 6 yards. That's not sustainable. Bryce Young having 198 yards on 30 attempts. That he did not play too well. What carried the Panthers to the win after being down was Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle played great in Chuba's absence. Chuba Hubbard got injured, but he probably should be back in this upcoming week. Hopefully for my fantasy team. But yeah, I do think if the Panthers could effectively use the rush game, they can win more games than what I thought they would. Bryce Young continues to not be that great, but if they can get the rushing game down, they could absolutely do wonders. For the Dolphins, their struggles just continue to skyrocket. Mike McDaniel really does not have that much more time anymore. I have yet to see any coaching change from there, but I'm sure it's going to happen soon if they just keep losing in games like this. Next up, we had an absolute beating between the Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. CJ Stroud played as good as he could have against the Ravens defense. The Ravens defense, here's the thing. The more takeaways from this game is simply just how bad the Ravens are without Lamar Jackson rather than how good the Texans are. The Texans has shown that they can score points against these bad defenses. I got to see it against actually good defenses in order to be able to pick them against those types of teams again. However, for the Ravens, the Cooper Rush played all right, other than the interceptions, I guess, because he had 179 yards with only 20 attempts, but at the same time, what can you do? The Ravens has not played that well so far this season. While the Texans, they're getting better as based on these past 2 games, but you got to see against those good teams. I just cannot pick the Ravens at all until Lamar Jackson is back, and I don't remember if I read that he would be coming back again this upcoming week. I think he's going to be missing this upcoming week as well against the Rams, which would suck for the Ravens. But at this point, I don't see the Ravens even making the playoffs. Being 1-4, potentially 1-5 if they lose to the Rams, and you have a pretty short leash at that point. Like, I just don't see the Ravens making the playoffs anymore in this season. And that's going to suck for them, but it's going to be a harsh reality for this year. Next up, we had an interesting game between the Tennessee Titans and the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals overall played better, but they just absolutely blew it. The Titans, oh man. Okay, so I was watching with my roommate during this play of the fumble, but that's just got to be the craziest touchdown that I've ever seen. Like, genuinely. That's the craziest touchdown I have ever seen. The Titans throwing an interception. It gets fumbled. Gets kicked all the way into the touchdown. Into the end zone. And the Titans recovered it for the touchdown. That's a play you don't see every day. The Cardinals absolutely just blew it. They had the win in the bag, and they allowed Tennessee to catch up, especially with what even helped the Cardinals also lose was how Emari Demercado just fumbled like before actually getting it into the end zone. Like, you cannot do that. Cardinals' mistakes is this is a team that I had going into this season as a wild card in dark horse. But now they are just proving to me that they are like just the most mistake-worthy team in the NFL. And just losing to the Titans like this just shows us why. The Cardinals are not a good team. They do face the Colts this upcoming week, which they'll probably play up to them. But I don't know, man. This type of game is the reason why I'm not high on the Cardinals anymore. Next up, we had a shootout between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks. The Buccaneers winning 38-35. Both teams absolutely played well offensively. Baker Mayfield having 379 yards. Sam Darnold having 341 yards. The rushing game for Seattle actually did pretty good, with Kenneth Walker getting 86 yards and 10 carries. Like, both teams absolutely played well. I'm just surprised that the Seattle defense did not do as well. That's more so my takeaway on it. I picked the Seahawks because I thought their defense would do better than they did. I guess they did do kind of well for the rushing game side of things, but they did not stop Baker Mayfield at all. Emeka Egbuka having 163 yards. Perfect day for Emeka Egbuka with 7 receptions and 7 targets. I just don't know, man. Seattle just did not do well defensively in this game, and that probably also kind of shows how the Cardinals actually played up to the Seahawks the previous week, actually. But either way, Buccaneers win. Both teams have very good offense this game. It's yet to see how they would do in defense for future weeks. Next up, we have the Detroit Lions winning 37-24 against the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not going to lie, I expected this to be even more of a blowout than it was. Jared Goff doing very good, like usual, 258 yards, with 3 touchdowns. And the rushing game did at least some bits of his usual stuff with David Montgomery getting 65 yards, Jahmyr Gibbs getting 54. What's surprising me right now is how the Bengals actually had a rushing game this time. It's a modern. Okay, I guess it's not surprising in Chase Brown having 3.4, although that is Chase Brown's best performance so far this season, I believe. But Samaje Perine having 27 yards and 4 carries, tying Chase Brown, that's actually insane. But Jake Browning, yeah, but the news that broke out today with the Joe Flacco being traded to the Bengals now from the Browns, it's not overly shocking with how Jake Browning has performed this season so far. And there's just a lot to be done with the Bengals. They did absolutely do better than what I thought, but they just still did not play that good. Next up, we have the Washington Commanders winning against the Chargers 27-10. The Commanders doing absolutely well in Jaden Daniels' return. Daniels got 231 yards in 26 attempts. The rushing game did pretty good. Jacoby Foster-Merritt got 111 yards of 14 carries. What I'm more surprised about is how bad the Chargers played. They're just absolutely disappointing now. The Chargers lost to the Giants the week before, so maybe they could have had a bounce back game. Nope. Justin Herbert had only 166 yards. Omarion Hampton had 44 yards before his injury, and he's going to be an injured reserve now, and that just hampers this team even more. The Chargers is becoming one of those injured teams where you just can't pick anymore. And it sucks for the Chargers, man, because they had a 3-0 start to this season, winning all 3 divisional games. But now, they just suck now. There's not really much else to say with the Chargers, actually, because they just are not good. And they've been underperforming since their divisional games. And that's not going to last in the NFL. Something needs to change. But how can it when it's basically just injuries? Either way, this was a solid win for the Commanders against a disappointing Chargers team. Next up, we have the New England Patriots defeating what was the last undefeated team of the Buffalo Bills 23-20. That's right, folks. No more undefeated teams. With the Eagles losing and the Bills losing this week, no team has got to 5-0 this year. The Patriots is having a great day in passing, 273 yards on 30 attempts. No touchdowns, no interceptions for Drake May. But Ramondre Stevenson had 2 touchdowns of his own. Actually, a pretty good bounce back from 2 weeks ago. Josh Allen, he didn't play that bad either, in having 253 yards, 31 attempts. The Patriots defense did hold the Bills, and that's more so what ended up happening. There was a good TV moment with the one Bills fan that I just caught myself laughing to. Yeah, I'm sure it's gone on to the media at this point and that kind of stuff, but I got a good laugh out of that one. But yeah, with this game, the Patriots just simply played better, and I expected the Bills to at least lose at some point after the previous games, since honestly they haven't played the best so far, and the Patriots just showed why they're at least a team to make the playoffs this year. And finally, we have the Kansas City Chiefs losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars 31-28. Now, for this game, I wasn't at the TV as much, so I'll make it a little bit more quicker. But for the Chiefs, they didn't play too badly. Patrick Mahomes had 318 yards. The rushing game actually did pretty well overall. Well, it was a lot Mahomes, but they just could not stop the Jaguars. And the Jaguars actually having good offensive performance. And it's 221 yards and it's off 25 attempts to Trevor Lawrence. That's pretty good compared to what he's been doing before. The rushing game wasn't there as much, but at the same time, you gotta wonder about the Chiefs' defense at least a little bit after this game. But at the same time, I wasn't at the TV as much, so I'm just going to make this one quick. Jaguars did better offensively than normal, and that's also my takeaway. So that was my reactions to Week 5. Like I said, a lot of upsets, a lot of just stuff I did not think that would happen happened. But yeah, if you liked this video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.